certainly want to hear you talk about whatever you want to talk about. But I think for where we want to go in terms of thinking about the future of sport, for sure I want to talk about the successes of Adidas. Adidas?
Adidas. No, it said Adidas, but if you say it in American, no one knows what you're talking about.
Okay.
So.
I'm just trying to show I got a little insight here.
Adidas. Adidas is good.
Adidas. So the successes, the challenges, and the future as well. So I'll throw some questions out there. Let's see where we can take in the brief time that we have to give some people, give folks the insights on success in the business and being impactful in the business as well. But let's start off with I think one of the great, certainly sport business stories of the past couple of years, and that is, and happens to coincide with somebody's leadership, that is the financial success and the revenue increase of Adidas in North America. How did that happen? I mean, everybody knows that the companies that were in the lead and the presence that Adidas had outside of the United States, but how did the transition take place here?
Well, first of all, I just thank you, Ken, and thank you, Ray, for having me here today and to really build this incredible relationship between a lot of different people. When I met Ray, our business, Adidas in the United States, was really struggling. And it took someone like Ray, who had vision for not only his organization here, ASU, but also what we wanted to get done at Adidas.
And timeline-wise, is 2014?
Yeah, this is 2014.
Right,
this is the summer of 2014. And if you go back at that point, our business, these are all public numbers, but our business was about $1.5 billion in 2014, and this 2017 we did $4.5 billion. So in just 3 years, we've tripled the business. So it's been, and the market is basically up 3 or 4%. So we've made these incredible strides. But one of the turning points, honestly, was when Ray Anderson and ASU took a chance to leave Nike, which is such a great company and brand, and put their faith in the vision that we had to be a better company here in North America. Adidas is a great company around the world, but really struggles here because you have two really great competitors, Nike and Under Armour, and we were kind of this German soccer brand, right. and Ray saw that we could be different than that. And we had those discussions, Ray and myself, that we needed organizations like ASU and someone like Ray to be out front and to tell our story. And so really in really the summer of 2014, I think we began to see that we could be a different company here. And I think success, no matter what it is, it all starts with a vision. I mean, success doesn't happen by accident. And we got the right people together that said, hey, we have this wonderful global brand that struggles here in North America, and let's do the right things to make it successful here. And so it started with just this hope that we could do great things. And then we needed to really become embedded in sport in America, which we were not. And really the first step was here at ASU.
You know, even to go back in time, and I'm just thinking about this as you said it, when I was a kid, late 60s in LA, there was a store called Pico Athletic Shoe. And I remember the first time I saw an Adidas shoe, kids started buying them. And there wasn't, I mean, PF Flyers or Kids. There wasn't a whole lot of options if you wanted to wear a real sports shoe. And there was this little store in LA where you could get them. I don't know how, as much as expensive as they are now, I don't know how we got them back then. It may or may not have been paid for now as I think about it, but that's a whole nother story. But the two things I think about is first there was kind of a mini dominance for a while because nobody else was there in terms of a global company. The other thing that we did a lot of, which is a whole nother conversation, and thinking about the creative things that you've done, and I want to kind of ask about that, is we used to paint the stripes because you didn't have a lot of options, but we would paint the stripes with some enamel paint to match whatever school you were at. That sort of thing was kind of a cool thing to do. But you guys, and that I don't know if that was the beginning of innovation, but you guys have a lot of focus on innovation and creativity and allowing the consumer to be creative too. How different is that? And if you could talk about that some, how different is that from what everybody else is doing?
I think there was 4 or 5 fundamental things that changed. First was our mindset, and the second one was we needed to build the business in a different and more creative way. And again, I'll move on past Ray, but Ray saw that we were going to look at how would we create a different business model here in North America. And so what we did, and Shane, who runs the relationship here, was really at the forefront of that, which was changing the culture of our company from kind of being following the rules to creating the rules. And the way you create that kind of environment is just to ask people to get involved, to think, not just to do, because we had an organization that was really waiting for directions. And what we said was, we don't want you to wait anymore, we want you to think about what could Adidas be like in North America if we just started with a clean sheet of paper? And so it's amazing the amount of creativity that came up. We have 13,000 employees here in North America, and we just kind of opened up the platform to take in different ideas of how we could do things. This relationship is a really good example of that. Then you go to people like Kanye West and Pharrell, that was really outside of the normal thinking of how would you create a cool sports brand with Kanye West and Snoop Dogg. I mean, I have 2 daughters, and they said, "Dad, do you even know who those guys are?" I'm a 59-year-old white guy. I mean, I didn't.
But let's pause on those 3.
Yeah.
I mean, can you do? I know you guys measure a lot of stuff, and one of the things we learned in our relationship is kind of the different kind of thinking of a company versus an academic place. We're thinking about excellence and success, but we don't really always measure things. But these guys, the KPIs, key performance indicators. I mean, what kind of indication do we have of the power that a Pharrell and Kanye and Snoop bring to the brand, as opposed to, I mean, the big name athlete?
Yeah. Well, what we discovered, and it was right in front of us, but for those of you who know the Adidas brand, we really have we have 2 brand marks. We have the 3 stripes, which is the performance logo, and we have the original trefoil that was the brand mark for many, many years and now represents our fashion business. And we operated those very separately. You couldn't, when you go into a store, you could find performance, but not fashion. So we had these 2 pillars, and we operated the company like that. And so you had people like Pharrell or like Snoop or like Kanye West that were kind of in the fringe over here. But when somebody said in the company, I wonder if we could kind of push those pillars towards one another. And today we talk about our brand really represents the intersection between culture and sport. And when we mixed the 2 together and said, young people, in our target market are young people, 14 to 30 years old, they're not just interested in an athlete on the weekends. Yes, they still are interested, but they're also interested in social issues, the way they live their life, diversity, inclusion, things that traditionally in sport were always there but never really talked about. And so we said, let's talk about it all together. And so if you want to talk about kind of the creative moment at our company, it's when we saw right in front of us that the secret for us going forward was to blend performance and culture together. And so there was a TV ad right before the holidays. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but sitting at that table were athletes, musicians, artists, all these different people representing society. And I think when we started to speak to these young consumers that we understood, not totally, but we better understood what goes on in their minds about the world, our brand started to resonate with young people in a much better way.
So 2 recent successes, University of Washington coming on board, another Pac-12 school, which I don't know, Ray, are you happy about that or not? I don't know. All right, and Aaron Judge. I mean, what do those 2 signings mean for the company in terms of the progress we're talking about having been made?
Well, it's really important for the sustainability of our business that we are rooted in sport. we can sell all the fashion products that we want, but if it's not the genesis of sport, why would you buy our product? Because you could buy Polo or you could buy a fashion brand. So yes, fashion is very important to us, but it has to be rooted in sport. So the Aaron Judge, we look at all the different sports and really try to find the best athletes in every sport. So if you look at football, we have Aaron Rodgers and we have Von Miller, and the list goes on. If you look at baseball now, we have Chris Bryant and Carlos Correa and now Aaron Judge. And if you just go through basketball, we're probably the NBA, Harden, which I know is near and dear to everyone in this room. So the continual signing of athletes that are the best, but that also then represent something bigger than that. And I think James Harden maybe is the best example of that, because he's as known for his life off the court, and I mean in a positive way, not a negative way, in a very positive way, as he is his brilliance on. And so it's this mixture of culture and sport, again, that's really important to us. Colleges for us, and Ray started this. When Ray signed with us here at ASU, we were losing colleges because the brand was hemorrhaging. And since the signing of ASU, we've got ASU, we have Miami, we have Rutgers, we have Georgia Tech, University of Washington, and we've lost a few schools, but we continue to bring schools on. And what once was a hindrance to recruit athletes to come in, the Adidas brand, is now really a big plus in recruiting kids to come in. It was there was something social media is both great and damaging, but I saw something yesterday and it was just so cool. There was an alumni at UW that was really upset that they were leaving Nike and going to Adidas. And the person wrote, didn't this alum understand that young kids don't want to look like old white guys in their Nikes, that young kids are all about Adidas? So it was just a seminal moment to see how much the brand has transformed in just a few years, that really it's resonating now with these young athletes. It's very cool.
It reminds me again of when I was 13, 14 years old. It was this cool thing that it was difficult to get access to in a way too, which the pricing on some of the celebrity brands kind of puts it in that kind of space as well. The challenges, and you alluded to one of them as we were talking about athletes and the athletes that you end up engaging with as endorsers and the like. In this era we're in of athlete activism, how does the company think about dealing with those kinds of issues? And you talk about, I mean, Harden has had this stellar life off the court, does a lot of stuff in the community. An LA guy does a lot of stuff back home, even though he's not playing there. How do you contemplate those kinds of issues that could go south? And I mean, this atmosphere, both of the ultra negative, criminal kind of activity, but also the athlete activism, the so-called flag protest and that sort of thing.
I think it's changed, Ken, dramatically in the last 36 months. I worked at the TaylorMade Golf Company for 30-some years, and now the Adidas company, or the Adidas brand, for the last 4 years. And when we would select an athlete, you were always concerned about what would they say, what would they do, and what would the ramifications be of those actions on your brand and business. And still, I think we look for people today, athletes, male or female, that have good character, because you certainly don't want criminal activity in somebody's background and take a risk on that, because it would damage your brand. But I think what's happened in 36 months is we love athletes that have a platform to make the world a better place. And if they're an activist in a way that brings attention to something, that moves the world forward, even if there's controversy at that moment, we're really interested in those athletes, because I think it represents the world today, not just an athlete that we put the logo on and you never hear from them again. So 3 years ago, never would have said that. But I think today, allowing athletes to have a voice is really profound, and I think it's moving the world forward.
So just a little inside Adidas or inside a company, When those things started to happen, and I'm talking about the protests in the NFL, how much company time engagement was spent on how do we deal with this? I mean, how does a company like yours think about how are we going to address a pretty big social issue? Should it touch us?
Yeah, it lot of discussion. But I think that's where you really have to go back to what is your value? What are your values? And one of the values that we talk about a lot at Adidas is inclusion and diversity. And diversity for us doesn't just mean race or religion or ethnicity. It means diversity of thought. And all those things together mean diversity of thought. And so when you put at the top of your values stream inclusion and diversity, it's a pretty easy discussion. If you don't have that value, then it's like some people are over here, some people. I'll tell you, Kaepernick is a really good example. We very much wanted to sign Colin Kaepernick. What we didn't want to do is sign him if he was not on a team, because then it would have appeared that we were just kind of taking advantage of this noise or interest that he had generated. But had he, and if he signs on a team, we would definitely want to sign him, because then it would be both sport and activism. So we're not in the business of activism. We're in the business of sport, but allowing our athletes to tell their story, and it's really important to us.
So the other thing that's going on in the news is the FBI investigation involving college basketball and the like. And Mark and I haven't talked about this directly, but as a lawyer, I said, I know this would be a difficult question for you guys to engage in at all. But at the same time, I said it'd be silly if I sat up here on 2 days after something was in the news and I didn't at least bring it up. But and so I know that there's probably nothing that you can say that would not have your people upset at you. But I guess that
Is this attorney-client privilege?
No. This is like all these journalism people out here. If I don't at least raise it, you and I socially I wouldn't, But I'm doing the right thing here. So, but it's I assume that it's the best path for you is to leave.
I think I can say a couple things, Ken. I think one, we definitely were taken by surprise by it. I think the investigation so far shows that it's contained in terms of our people to one individual. We hired an outside law firm to do our own investigation. We've cooperated with the government and to be as transparent and cooperative as we can. And the one thing that I just really want to say is the company is really committed to fair and ethical business practices, and we've rearranged the entire way we manage this category. New people involved, new processes for sign-off on different things. So we've taken it very seriously. We're part of Condoleezza Rice's panel that she's put together to look at college basketball. So we're not running away from it. We think that there definitely, obviously, there's a problem that existed, and we need to be a part of the fix.
So thank you. And the other big business question of the day, you can't have a conversation about business and not mention Amazon. How does Amazon play in the shoe apparel business? Positive? I mean, and for most of us, it's, I don't know, I just click and buy it from Amazon. It seems like the easiest thing to do.
Again, for me, it's an easy one. I think in 2014, when I took the job, one of the first things that I did was we opened Amazon in 2014. Almost lost my job over opening Amazon because most of our retail partners called the company and said, you got this new guy in charge, he wants to open Amazon, and we don't do that. But if you just look at where the world is going, and I think as a leader, you're not only responsible for today, but more importantly, you're responsible for tomorrow and where is the world going. In Amazon, whether traditional retail likes that business model or not, it touches every person person's life in here, I would imagine, that uses Amazon. So the issue for us wasn't do we or do we not do business with Amazon? It's how do we do business with Amazon? And would they be interested in a partnership that allowed us to accomplish our goals, which is to keep our brand premium, distribute the right products to the right consumers at the right time. And we have a really positive relationship today with Amazon, and our business is growing with them. And we still have great relationships with our brick and mortar retailers. So the world finds a way to adjust to changing times.
The last kind of challenge question, and then I want to look a little bit more at the future, and then close out and give you a chance to give the audience anything else you might want to. No U.S. in the World Cup. Impact on a company like yours, and I guess beyond, in North America and beyond?
Well, I think that's where marketing spin really helps, because we'll celebrate the World Cup as a global event and not mention the fact that U.S. is not in the World Cup. I think for Adidas, one of the things that when I went from the golf business into the big Adidas world, the World Cup is the event for our company around the world. And honestly, we do celebrate what it represents for the world of sport more so than the U.S. Now, is it a bummer that the U.S. is not in the World Cup? Yeah, but it's also a bummer for Nike. It's a bummer for Under Armour. It's just not a good thing. But I read something where the United States had qualified for 7 World Cups in a row, and it was like one of only 3 or 4 nations in the world. So, we had a bad year. So that's what I would say. But I think the World Cup is such an incredible event that I think it'll still be great even here in America.
So on the future, the technologies that Adidas is using or that will impact Adidas, and we sort of alluded to that kind of thing with Amazon. What are you excited about? What's on the horizon? What should we look for? The 4D stuff, 3D stuff, anything that excites you?
I'll tell you, because we don't have a lot of time, what excites me is that the world today is driven by the search for something new. And the search for something new has always been around, but now it's intensified. So 10 years ago, a company like ours would have 15 people locked away in a small building and say, you're our innovation group. And Shane could tell you today, we have 13,000 people in North America that we've asked to be business innovators, whether it's product, how do we go to market, how do we build relationships with the universities? How do we do things differently in the world? So what's exciting about me, yeah, we have 4D, we have all kinds of new technologies. We make apparel and footwear from recycled plastics from the ocean. I mean, the things that we're doing are just phenomenal, but I think we're only just beginning. And that's, what's so exciting about what you're doing here at the Global Sports Institute. It's through the lens of sport, what can we find out about the world and how do we make it a better place? And that, to me, is what's really exciting.
So anything you want to make sure, any knowledge you want to make sure dropping knowledge, how old is that? I'm 63, I can say that's anything you want to make sure you deliver, then I've got one last question.
Well, I would just like to say this. I think when Ray came to me and said, you need to meet Dr. Crow, and the 3 of us had lunch, and during that lunch, we started to talk about, the 3 of us, what could we do differently than just have this school athletic brand relationship. And then shortly after that, they mentioned your name. Shortly after that, we met at the Super Bowl in 2015 here in Phoenix, not at this hotel, but in Phoenix, where we had that breakfast. And the vision for let's use the resources that we have in a very different way to really try to find, through the lens of sport, a way to make the world a better place. And today represents really the official, as Ray said, public coming out of the Global Sports Institute, and just really excited to be a part of it.
Thanks, Mark. My last question, I know that's been a good one to end on. I felt it, but I got to ask one more thing here. And I'm asking everybody a version of this question when I'm on tape with them or otherwise. When did you first fall in love with sport?
Well, I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I was born in 1959. So by the time I was 5, Vince Lombardi was in the middle of 5 NFL championships in 9 years with 2 second places. Bill Belichick is not the greatest coach in the history of football. Ray will support me, I think. And we got to stick with Vince Lombardi. So I fell in love with football and sport when I was just a little kid. So, and I come from a generation, as you and Ray do. I mean, believe me, I did play college golf, but I played football, basketball, baseball, golf, a little hockey, was on the bowling team. That's when sports were great. Now you end up having to play one. We played them all. We weren't good at anything, but we played them all. So for me to work for Adidas and to be a part of all sports, but I've been in love with sports since I was 5 years old.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Appreciate
All
it.
right, thank you.
Thanks for the time.